All right. Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. Welcome. This is our May 3rd JYC meeting. We have one meeting left of the school year. Oh my gosh. That means we have 1 month left before school is out. How do y'all feel about that?
Good.
Feel good about it? Do y'all have summer plans already?
Honestly, no.
No? Just go ahead and be like, we're out of school. That's what we're ready for?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and do the next few slides. Amy, I think you got the controller.
Me?
So I'm Pam Trafton. I'm the Senior Neighborhood Improvement Services Coordinator for Jacksonville Youth Council. And tonight we have with us our educators from Onslow County Health Department, Ms. Amy Smalls and Mr. Christopher Floyd. And this is our last session for Catch Your Breath. Man, it flew by. I keep wanting to have y'all here another month. That's why I was like, no, next month.
You keep saying, till June.
Yeah, but you're like, no. So at this time, I turn it over to y'all.
All right, so we're gonna pick up where we left off. So we're gonna finish up a little bit of session 3, but session 4 is super short. So, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna overlap it a little bit. So we did do this last week, but I want you guys to see it too. So we started talking about implied messages that tobacco companies send. So we're talking about marketing strategies. We've talked about how they market with, well, we'll look at it right here. Can someone read that to me? Read that out loud.
And individuality.
Freedom and individuality. So these are different tactics, if you will. And it says that tobacco companies use a lot of marketing places use these tactics to attract different groups of people. Our problem is that tobacco companies are using these to target specifically teens, okay? And we know it's not legal to have tobacco products unless you're 21 or older, right? All right, so they use freedom and individuality. What's that one?
Popularity and fitting in.
Nice. That one.
Great activities and good looking.
Yep, being attractive and good looking.
Good looking.
And the last one is
Adventure and having fun.
adventure and having fun. All right, so now we're gonna look at a couple of vaping ads and see which category we feel they're appealing to or falling into. And they don't all fall into just one category. They can fall into all 4 or a couple of them. So this one says, your vape, your way. Choose the color, taste, and nicotine level that matches your style. Customize your vape now and has their address. And looking at the picture, thinking about those words, which of the messages over here do you feel like is trying to appeal to?
Freedom and individuality.
Freedom and individuality, especially with those words, right? What about the picture? So you see a girl, it looks like she's graphing, doing some kind of artwork. She has tattoos, she has some bracelets. Her hair looks like it's pretty nice and done, right? So it could fall under maybe one of the other ones. What do you think?
Being attractive and good looking.
Maybe attractive and good looking, maybe even adventure and having fun. So I think the book has all 3 of those. I think it actually may have popularity and fitting in too because she has tattoos, so they're trying to, show you different categories, different cultures, different groups of people. You're right. What do we think about this one? So it's a social media post. It says, art has no rules. Chris, can you read what it says in the fine print? That's too far for me.
Use offers more ways to express yourself with color choices in teal, blue, gold, silver, rose gold, and slate. Views U.S. charge beyond.
All right, so the post says art has no rules. What do you think about that advertisement for vape? It's advertising a vape, and that's the picture. What do you think?
Adventure and having fun.
Yeah, right? Art, adventuring, having fun. Absolutely. I also think too, so I don't vape, I'm not looking for vapes, right? So if I was scrolling through and saw a big picture of a vape or, an ad that that clearly said vape on it, I'd just keep right on going, right? But if I liked art and I was scrolling through and I saw that, I might stop, right? So they're trying to get the attention of somebody else that maybe doesn't vape, isn't actually looking for that, but would be attracted to something different. So art has no rules. Does that have anything to do with vaping? I don't feel like it has anything to do with vaping, right? It's just trying to attract your attention. It's just trying to get your attention as you're scrolling through. All right, what about this one? And then after this, we'll continue on with the overlapping. What do you think about that? So it says, what does that say, Chris, in the small?
No matter what the day calls for, Logic Pro is ready at a moment's notice to offer a satisfying break from your everyday routine.
What do you think about this one?
Being attractive and good looking.
Yeah, attractive and good looking, maybe even popularity and fitting in, because it's makeup, right? And I think again, like with the art has no rules, if I was just scrolling through and if I was a young teen that liked makeup, or anybody that liked makeup, as I was scrolling through, it might get my attention, right? It's not a big in your face, showing a vape. It gets your attention because you see the makeup, but in reality, the makeup has nothing to do with what they're trying to sell, right? All right. So I wish I had the slides on this. I'm also doing some vaping education for, what am I trying to say? Oh my goodness, staff, staff at schools, as well as we've gone into a couple of doctors' offices. We've done some education for the school counselors in the county and a few other specific sectors. And I have a new slide now that shows what cigarette ads used to look like, tobacco ads used to look like. Think of like the Marlboro Man, stuff like that. So what those looked like were age appropriate individuals. We don't promote tobacco, period. However, we definitely don't want to see targeted advertising towards teens. And so right now, if you look at those old ads, they're all clearly over the age of 21. In fact, most of them appear to be in their late 30s, maybe early 40s or 50s,
Right.
where now if you see the ads,
There's no age to it.
no, you definitely are not seeing somebody in their 50s or their 40s or even their 30s. I don't know their age, but they're very young. They're very young. So tobacco companies are definitely targeting a different age group than what they traditionally were targeting.
I was gonna say that
Some other
picture
ones.
alone was just because
Which
everyone's on a laptop.
Oh, which one?
That one.
That one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
'cause-
Yeah, this one right here,
Like it looks like your focus is the laptop, but right beside
Distracting
it.
me, a hidden miss.
Mhm.
right? So you see the laptop and you see, they're charging it on that, and then there's a camera and a beach towel, I'm assuming, and a flip flop and a little bit of a sunscreen there. So yeah, again, they're getting your attention with all the other things around it that's going on,
Mhm.
right? And to me, this would be, what would you guys think for this one? The appeal.
Adventure and having fun
Yeah,
based
it-
on the.
That's what I would think too, right? You're gonna get to go to the beach and have a good time. What it doesn't say is you could go to the beach and have a good time without this. This isn't going to make you have an extra good time.
Right.
All right. This is another one that makes me think very similar to the art one and the makeup one. If you're scrolling through, it's going to be eye-catching. It's going to get your attention. I don't feel this image would be directed towards, say, 30 or 40-year-old. If you were trying to track the attention of a 30 or 40-year-old, even late 20s, in my opinion,
Mhm.
it wouldn't be flower origami, right? I
Right.
feel like that is trying to cater towards a younger crowd or teens. All right, so what we're gonna do is, this might be a little tricky, so I'm gonna help you guys out a little bit. Only tricky because you didn't hear the other things that we've said. So actually what I'll do is, let's go through these really quick. So you're gonna we have pieces of paper and you are gonna use the markers or crayons or colored pencils, whatever I have in that bag, to design a anti-vaping social media post on the paper, and you're going to use one of these categories to try to appeal to teens your age. So for the myth busting, help peers get accurate information about vaping and dispel myths. If you choose one of these categories, you want to do this category, but you're like, well, I don't know if I know enough information about, let me know. I gotcha. Goals versus consequences. So we talked about goals. We've talked about making big decisions and small decisions, and what it means if someone says make good choices. What does it mean if somebody says make good choices? What do you think that means?
To make choices that will have positive positive outcomes.
Absolutely. To make a choice that has a positive outcome, and that's probably the best definition I've heard with all the classes that I've asked. So I love it. I might actually use that now when I give them my example. I like it. So yes, thinking about the outcome or the consequence when you make that decision, right? And whether you're going to eat an apple or a banana, which we talked about, is that a big decision, do you think, or a small decision?
Small.
Right, small, because the outcome of it, assuming you're not diabetic or something like that, is going to be virtually the same whether you eat an apple or a banana. It's not really going to affect the rest of your day. However, what about choosing a college?
You have a big outcome.
Yeah, big outcome, big decision, right? Because the consequence is going to carry on much longer, right? Depending on, I would say, if I applied to Harvard, and that's the only college I applied to, that's going to be bad, right? Because I'm not going to get in, and so me personally would not have gotten in, and therefore my choices would have been very limited. So it definitely, it's a big decision. Also thinking about the cost, thinking about how long you'll have to go there. What if you applied to the school and realized, wait a second, they don't even offer the course that I want to take? So definitely a big decision. And vaping, whether you choose to vape or not, and I always tell the kids, even if you're choosing to, we have to agree that it's a big decision, because it's a decision that can have an impact on a greater amount of years, longer time. All right, so goals versus consequences. Nicotine addiction. We talked a lot about nicotine addiction. I would love to revisit that if you have any questions about that and signs of addiction. The environment, we talked about how it's terrible for the environment. I think it was 99 billion pounds, I can't remember now, of e-waste happens every year. And vaping is only adding to that because most of them are disposable. And even the ones that aren't disposable, eventually they're getting rid of them. And they all have ion batteries, which is toxic to the environment. So those not being disposed of properly are creating to the e-waste. Leadership, we talk about being a good role model. Do you guys have any younger siblings or nieces, nephews, neighborhood children?
Yeah. Little brother.
All right. So even if we don't want to be a role model, there's always somebody looking up to you, right? And they're seeing what we're doing. They're seeing what you're doing. So being a good leader at home, in the community, in your neighborhood. And then refusal strategies. So we talked about ways to avoid, ways to refuse, and ways to exit. So if you thought you were going to be going into a tricky situation, our scenario was two friends were wanting to go over another friend's house. They hadn't seen him in a long time. He'd just come back to town. But they knew that somebody else was going to be coming over there, and they knew that this person vaped. So they didn't want to be in that kind of tricky situation. So we talked about different things they could have done to avoid the situation altogether. So not even get yourself in that kind of predicament. We talked about, well, what if they decided to go? It was the only time they were going to see him. His name was Xavier. The only time they were going to see Xavier. So they decided to go, but they were going to refuse. And so we talked about different ways we can refuse. Knowing all you have to say is no. You don't have to have an excuse. You don't have to have a reason. However, sometimes we might get in a situation where we feel like we need to say something more because you don't want people to hound you for something. So refusal strategies and exiting, different ways to exit. A lot of teens have phones. included. So that's a good way to exit. Mom called, somebody called, I got a text message, I have to step out. So those are some of the exit strategies. So the plan is for you to use one of those categories. Chris, do you have the papers? All right, and then we have the coloring stuff. There's, you want color pencils, markers? Everything.
Which you have color pencils and markers? I think it's another thing, color pencils. I don't know, I only got one of them now.
Yeah, actually, I think that whole bag is full of. All right, so I think I just went through most of this, but while you guys are starting, our lesson summary, this was for lesson 3, which we were needing to finish up. Basically, we can stick to our choice not to use tobacco products by avoiding, refusing, and exiting peer pressure situations. The most effective refusal strategies are the ones that feel most natural to you. So we practiced on whatever feels the most natural. Big tobacco companies spend massive amounts of money on advertising to addict, dashed out, attract new users. So they spend approximately $1 million an hour. Tobacco and e-cigarette companies combined, they spend $1 million an hour. It's crazy. So almost $1 million already spent with us being here. Advertising does not give us all the information we need to make informed decisions. The ads we looked at, none of them really told us anything about the product, right? Told us what color we could buy it in, but didn't tell us anything about what was in it. It didn't tell us anything about what it would do, if it would harm us. And big tobacco companies have a history of targeting young people to replace past smokers who have died. That was our lesson summary. So you guys can go ahead and start working on that if you want to. You know what we can do? You guys just hold on to that. We can go through it, and if we have time at the end, you guys can work on that, and if not, you can take it home. So that might work too. All right, sorry. Opening question, so for lesson 4, how can choosing to use tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, affect your goals? It's kind of tricky. I know you haven't heard about our whole list because we've gone over it, but that's all right. Give us your best shot. How do you think it could affect your life goals?
Health-wise, like you might not become able to do whatever you want to in the future.
Absolutely.
Physically and mentally too, of course.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We watched a video earlier on about a lacrosse player that got a scholarship to play lacrosse in soccer in college, and by the time the second semester came, his health was too poor to be able to play, and talk about how long it took him to practice, and to get up there. He probably for years and years he got to be able to play in college and then wasn't able to. Do you have anything to add to the question of how can choosing to use tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, affect your life goals? You don't have to answer it, but if you had something.
No.
No, that's good. That's all right. We also talk about, so that does say life goals, but what about even walking across the stage at graduation? If we got in trouble in school, that could be something that was taken away, or a senior trip, or whatever. What do you have? Prom, yeah, prom.
Maybe participating in sports.
Right, participating in sports. And addiction can do it.
It says definitely a domino effect.
It is. And again, I know it says life goals, but sometimes I know it's hard to see too far beyond. So thinking about like the next couple years is just as important. Also, I was gonna say something. Becoming addicted. So if you did become addicted to tobacco products, with the nicotine, once you become addicted to one thing, you're more susceptible to become addicted to other things because your brain is programmed for this addiction process, which could be it could be tough. If at the very least, tough as far as your financial, having to spend money on it because of the addiction. It's expensive. It's very expensive. And thinking about, where you want your money going in the future. All right. I just gave it away. It's right here. This is the guy. Oops. Are we able to play the video?
Guys, it's Darnell.
It's Colin.
It's Lily here. I'm gonna tell you guys a story that you're probably not gonna believe because it is absolutely insane. My hands were shaking.
My heart was really racing. My body really shut down.
Didn't think anyone wanted anything to do with me. No one was here to help me.
I didn't know what was going on. The next thing I know, I blacked out.
I never felt that helpless before. And that was the night before I went to the hospital.
My name is Colin. I'm 19. Started vaping at 17.
My name is Darnell, and I started vaping this year.
My name is Lily. I started vaping when I was 14, and now I'm 16. I went to a middle school for the performing arts, and my dream was to go to the high school of the performing arts. Everybody from my middle school basically auditioned for the high school. Vaping definitely messed up my dream. My voice was cracky and I didn't have the same range that I used to. After the dance portion of my audition, I couldn't catch my breath. I didn't do well. I bombed the audition. I don't go to the school. I didn't get in.
I go to college and I was playing on the lacrosse team there. Through vaping, a lot of these built-up anxieties and depression ended up sprouting out. I felt like I was in this just hole. I don't think there was any way I could vape and not get addicted.
Vaping is an addiction, and it definitely changed everything. I was getting really hot. I was like, okay, maybe it's just hot, whatever. But then I started getting really sweaty, and I got dizzy. I felt like a panic attack, and I thought it was a panic attack. Yeah, I was really scared. My friends were scared. I was like, what's going on? I couldn't really explain to them what was going on because I didn't really know. So I feel like vaping took something from me. I feel like it took control.
My second semester, I ended up falling into a really deep state of depression. I was ineligible to play for the season, failing classes. I didn't realize that it was gonna be this bad.
Everything that I had trained towards was deteriorating, and to put so much time and effort into something and then just to take it away from yourself is just an awful feeling. Like you're ruining something for yourself. Everybody in my life was disappointed that I was doing this, and since it was an addiction, I didn't want to stop.
When I first spoke to the doctor, I told him that I vape, and he was like, that's definitely the trigger to your heart condition I already had. And they gave me two options, either get surgery or I could be on medication for the rest of my life. And it happened to me, so it could happen to any of us.
I reached out to my parents and friends around me. Even though I lied to their faces and even though I hid from them, they were still there to help me out of this hole and get me back on my feet and get me out of this addiction.
Every aspect of your life is gonna get better if you quit vaping, and I say that from experience.
Your health and your life is way more important than vaping. It's not worth it. It's not.
The previous slide was just talking about finishing this up. If you don't think vaping is addictive, it may already have already altered your brain. All right, making informed choices, so that's another video.
When you use a tobacco product, you're putting 4,000 chemicals into your body. And your body has to process all those chemicals. So all the organs in your body are being stressed. You know, it's actually safer, other than carbon monoxide, it's actually safer to suck on the exhaust of a car than it is a cigarette. Who would do that? Look, you have health class. You know what tobacco can do. You know about cancer and heart disease and all that kind of stuff. And what you're probably not thinking about is your brain. Nicotine's gonna enter your brain. It's the most vital organ you have in your body. It's gonna change the way your brain works, and you're gonna do it yourself. Nobody's gonna addict you. You're gonna addict yourself. It's a personal choice. But once you've made that choice, you can't change it back. Your brain is gonna be changed for the rest of your life. And you're screwing with the most vital organ you have in your body. It's who you are. And you're about to change it with a drug called nicotine. It doesn't make any sense. The one thing about drug addiction is what you do today to your body, you won't feel today. You might feel it 6 months from now. Drug addiction is a process by which we slowly change all the organs in our body over time. It's still your choice.
All right, So the summary lesson, lesson summary, for this one is that nicotine is highly addictive and damages the brain. Like talk about how age plays a role. So your brain doesn't completely develop till the mid-20s, till your mid-20s. Something I hadn't thought about and learned on my webinar I spoke with you earlier about is your lungs too. Your lungs don't develop fully until the mid-20s. So whatever you do to them now is more harmful than if you're older, if you have like an old brain like me. Still would damage my brain, but as a youth, as somebody that's brain is not developed all the way, it is a lot more damaging. So there are short and long-term negative consequences of using e-cigarettes. We've talked about some of them today: health, social life, finances, goals. Big tobacco companies spend massive amounts of money on advertising to attract new users. There are more fun and more important things to do than vape. We can stick to our choice not to use tobacco products by avoiding, refusing, and exiting situations where we're pressured to use them. And we learned earlier on, most people your age do choose to be vape free. A lot of times that's hard to comprehend when it feels like everyone around you is using it, especially when you're in school and you're exposed to it. As much as we hear, kids are being exposed to it, but they do, so you're not alone. You choose to be vape free. And we are done. That's it. Oh, it's not it actually. Just kidding. So I forget, I always say that and then I get to the end. So at the end, we like to talk about, what's your piece in the vape-free puzzle. We're not putting anybody on the spot, but sharing information that you've learned, being a good role model, discourage others from vaping, focus on your goals, unfollow influencers who promote vaping, never pressure anyone to vape or smoke, and be aware of advertising tricks. And to me, one of the biggest takeaways is never pressure anyone to vape or smoke. We talked about that a lot in the other sessions, but I feel like at the very least, that can be the takeaway, that we're not pressuring other people to make choices they don't want to make. So now we're done. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I will turn it over to Miss Pam.
And I think one of the things that sometimes we might take for granted is when we were talking about how to do the exit strategy and being able to just say no without an explanation. So whenever somebody, whether it's vaping or anything else in general, if you're just saying, no, I'm not going to do it. No is a complete sentence that allows you to walk away without explaining yourself any further.
Absolutely. There's no reason for you to feel like you have to have an explanation at all. Sometimes I think we get into a situation and we're going to say no, and you get in the situation and then it's kind of difficult. So then having that for yourself to feel like you can get out of it, your explanation isn't for them, but is for yourself, just to help you feel confident about what you're saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely, well said.
So practice that in the mirror sometimes. Just say no.
No.
Be mindful who you're saying no to.
Thank you.
These are refusal strategies to things that could be harmful to you.
All right. So from the Youth Council standpoint, we've had some activities. This was our elevator pitch that was last Thursday. This was an opportunity that we partnered with Onslow County Toastmasters, and they came out and taught our teens how to do table topics, which is a quick 1 to 2 minutes able to answer a question, but also to prepare yourself for our upcoming job fair when that interviewer, the representative from the organization, nonprofit, or the job, when they ask you that infamous question, tell me about yourself. And you have 1 to 2 minutes to go ahead and spit out what is the important piece of you. So that's where our teens on the bottom, they had an opportunity to practice off of a script, write a template out and be able to answer those questions. And then up top, we did some fellowship, had some food, and this was a chance to really just kind of break the ice and talk amongst each other beforehand. And so our volunteer job fair is coming up this Saturday, May 6th, from 11 to 2. We'll be at Onslow Community Outreach, which is the soup kitchen right here on Hargett Street. And that's going to take place from 11 to 2 again. We have different employers that are coming out that are hiring teams or organizations that are looking for volunteers or interns. So our teenagers from 14 to 18 come on out, and it's round robin table set up so you can visit whichever ones that are present, get their information, give them your information. If you have a resume, just in case one is needed, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have one kind of drafted up, say, what are you doing in school? And I didn't really realize how much teens were using resume in school now until I get the request for letters of recommendation. And I'm like, okay, give me all your information, and I get a full resume. So if you're not already doing a resume while you're in school, go ahead and start now. This is freshman year, so you only have 9 months to go back and say, what did I do over these 9 months? So what classes did you take? What extracurricular activities were you part of? Where did you volunteer? Where did you do community service? So go ahead and start keeping track of all that now. Because when your junior year and your senior year show up and it's time for you to start doing applications and they say, tell me what you did, you're like, that was 2 years ago. So go ahead and start writing everything out now so that way it just makes it easier. So the first thing that should be on your list is Jacksonville Youth Council. Then you'll put whatever office positions that you have, where you volunteered at, where you got community service at. So go ahead and start keeping track of all that. All right. And that is the end of our meeting tonight. So our last meeting is going to be the first Wednesday in June. And we'll confirm if the time changes because that is our senior send-off. And normally with senior send-off, we usually have that later in the evening. But if it's during exam nights, I try to take that into consideration. Because you're not failing an exam from partying with us. All right. Do y'all have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate you, Chris and Amy, for hanging out and having this partnership.
Appreciate it.